This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, cool. So at any point, feel free to stop me. If anything comes up at any time while it's fresh in your head, if you want to unmute yourself or if you want to ask it in the chat, it really doesn't make a difference to me. Um, just make sure you get that question off. Okay, so before we begin, we have it laid out. Just kind of address the whole question situation. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask me. Be in a position to receive. Be open and willing to receive the information that's provided. Um, Even if it doesn't quite understand or make sense at the time, be willing to receive that information. And if you do that, if you have any questions, then I can 100% make it plain for you. Does anyone in here currently have a case code? Or are we all fresh in it? All right, looks like we're fresh. Okay, so I really want
I
this
think
to
we
be
all.
a, hold on, did somebody say something?
I said I think we all fresh.
Okay, okay, cool. So I want this to be like a discussion before we kind of get into it, just so we can kind of see what it takes. Myself, EJ, as well as Jalen. We've all worked with a number of different clients, and every client is at a different stage in the process. We even mentioned it a little bit this morning. Everybody's in a different stage with their business. So ultimately, I want you guys to take some time to ultimately set some type of metric for success. If not, we have any brave souls. If you want to be able to converse with me a little bit just about what would it mean in your eyes to be a successful government contractor, right? So we can speak from that in terms of a contract dollar amount awarded over a certain period of time. So you want in one quarter, you want to win 5 contracts, or in one quarter, you want to be able to gross $125,000 worth of government contracts. So if anyone wants to share that of what they feel like they can go out and do, then please, I'll open the floor for you. And then ultimately, I want to kind of be able to pivot that into, are goals realistic, and as well as what constitutes a realistic goal, because I think that's important as well. If we're being completely honest, everybody wants to be $100 million business, but in our first year, that's probably not going to be the case. So, I do believe in the power of manifestation and, being very intentional with our actions. So, I'll never shoot down a dream, but, I've also been in this business a little bit, and I kind of know how the process works. And, if you tell me your goal, I 100% will work with you to get to it.
All right, bet we can talk. My bad. I'm sorry. All right. So nah. So literally for me, it's like half and half. So one part it's specifically for trucking, and also that tax rebate we talked about earlier, and then the other half is really because my mom's getting her GC, is really to help her build her business. To be honest with you, so like me, I have like my own companies that I run and I do my thing. But of course, in trucking, I definitely get government contracts, but it's really more so for my mom to help her build. So for her, I want to be able to get her to the point to where she can make like her first 10,000 a month, even though it's paid in one lump sum at the end. If you break it down by the months it took you to do it, you could gauge how much you make per month in terms of work. So being able to supply that to her.
Well, I do want to make a little bit of a clarification with that. So, if you're dealing with GC or construction projects, it's not necessarily paid out in one lump sum. So,
Yeah,
granted, let's say the project is going to be 5 years. With building a bridge. Let's just say it's
yeah,
building. I think you mentioned that this morning.
yeah,
You're going to be issued task orders on a longer term contract. So that task order is basically going to be the work that needs to be performed. So let's say if concrete needs to be poured, so they'll issue a task order for that contract for that work to be poured, and then once that work is completed, it's up to the government standards. Then you will have the ability to invoice, right? So there's different ways of payment. I know we did mention that this morning as well. Um, but it's definitely possible. If that's your goal, then that's more than achievable, especially in general contract and general construction, whichever it may be. That's definitely doable. Especially what is it? I believe at the tail end of last year, they passed the infrastructure bill. So,
Mhm.
there are a number of infrastructure-related contracts kind of on the horizon as
Yeah.
things continue to be flexed out. So that's definitely doable.
Okay, thank you for that. Appreciate it.
So anybody else got some metrics of success they want to share with us before we get started? Because we're going to all raise it up. Anything y'all say, I'm standing in accordance with y'all. So we got a couple of us in here, and it's the power of numbers working for us. Okay, so
Hey, don't make me call you out. Don't make me do that.
all right, I see Chuck got a question in the chat. It says, looking to manage the capacity for 500K across social media, transportation, and plumbing supply and wastewater. The last two that you mentioned, plumbing supply and wastewater, that's what I like to call real blue collar work. And those are some of the best government contracts to be in, just because one of their length, two of their value, and three, they're really not that difficult. If this is something that you do on your own, if it's something, that an area that you're knowledgeable in, then, you definitely can take that to the highest of heights. Okay. Contract with the Department of Corrections. Contracting with the Department of Corrections, Department of Justice, one of, or some of the best opportunities surrounding that is going to be foodstuffs. So as we mentioned earlier this morning, EJ's first contract was a bread contract for the Department of Corrections. I believe it was some correctional facility in Kansas. Correct me if I'm wrong, EJ. But foodstuffs, those are some of the best contracts. I really do love these type of contracts because I'll give an example. Back in February of 2020, there was a contract or a contractor who had just started their business. They had just got their cage code, and I love doing research on who the potential competition for an opportunity could be. So just doing a little bit of research on their company based out of Florida, and all they did was supply Federal Correctional Facility Coleman in Florida with rice, beans, different little pantry goods basically. And from, I believe, February to September, they had done about $2 million worth of government contracts. So you don't always have to do something big. You can make up with those large contracts with quantity and quality. So I think wanting to do work with the Department of Corrections is awesome. Cosmetics, that's also an area that the government does do. I don't really dabble in cosmetics that much, but I do know, there are opportunities for wigs. With what is it, ICE? I do believe ICE is primarily focused on cosmetics as well. So there are opportunities out there for that. So Chuck giving a little bit of information about what he does. If I buy an age wastewater services company, there's always options for subcontracting. That's something that we'll talk about today. You don't have to really have any true quote unquote skin in the game to be able to be successful in a lot of these areas that you all want to work in. You can be the prime on the contract, which basically means you are the contract holder, and then your subcontractor would be another company that you basically hire to do the work. But we'll get more in depth into that. I don't want to kind of get too much and get off schedule. But anyone else want to share before we get started?
I'll share.
Okay.
I think for me, I don't really want to throw a dollar amount out just yet because I feel like in most mentorships, I try to do that to myself. And I, when Jalen was speaking earlier, I was kind of feeling all anxious, feeling like I had to rush myself and like jump into a field. And I think because I'm so new to business, I would rather just want to kind of research the market and find something that's actually like, I don't know, like something I probably would enjoy doing. I don't know if that's like, I don't know if when you first started, like you had like a set, like, okay, I'm gonna go in with this, but I know the markets change. And when Jalen was saying, oh, do your research, I kind of just want to enjoy the research part of it and then kind of go at it like that. I mean, like yeah, obviously I want like a big business, but I know realistically speaking, I just want to keep my expectations at what I can do and achieve just just like, accept the learning process for what it is and don't try to just rush into it.
Yeah, and I think you make an excellent point, right? Just because I say, hey, let's put, some type of metric on it, I think, you having a plan is just as important as that, right? Because you got to know where you're going to get where you're going. You got to have some type of direction. And, I remember kind of when we started out, like we mentioned earlier, we didn't really have any guidance. We kind of threw everything at the wall until something stuck. Jalen mentioned one of his examples that we were a medical supply company winning roadway equipment opportunities. So definitely having a plan is important. It makes for a lot more easy sledding down the road. Okay, so that's all we got. Then we'll go ahead and get on right into it. All right, so this is our fundamentals. So I love using this acronym of SPRE. So it's going to go from sourcing, pricing, responding, and executing, all in that order. So sourcing, that's going to be centered around acquisition of government contracts, what vehicles to use for contracting. How do I identify what is a good contract? Does this contract fit with my business model? Is this an area I can be successful in? So all of that we'll talk about, the entire acquisition side. Even what agencies do I go to? How do I get in contact with an agency? What can the SBA do to help me to win contracts? Are there any resources by the SBA that'll help me win contracts? All of that will be revealed to us today. Pricing, one of the more important aspects. We're going to talk a little bit about how to effectively price contract opportunities to ultimately lead to a viable submission. Responding is if you don't respond to a contract, you can't win a contract. So all these are pieces that work together as a whole. So you really can't have one without the other. So all of them are equally important. You can't do one without the next. Executing, we have years of experience in successfully executing government contracts. So we can tell you all the do's and don'ts of a contract, what to do prior to starting a contract to make yourself in a better position to be successful with the execution, all the way to, okay, I won the contract, now I'm on the ground, what do I do? So we'll take you through all the different steps of execution, because on one, we don't want you to get canceled. So we're going to make sure we do everything in our power to be able to get you caught up to speed to be successful. All right, so now we are in our first step of the procurement process. And this is our sourcing, so S. One of the first things you want to do is you want to be able to utilize all of the contracting vehicles at your disposal. So those are going to be some of the websites and resources that we mentioned this morning: Unison Marketplace, SAM.gov, GovTribe, as well as FedConnect. So we're going to take a look at all those websites, go through and take a little bit of a look at different opportunities, show you what the acquisition process looks like from start to finish, how we find opportunities, how I'm going to give you a little bit of a peek into my mind on what makes an opportunity stand out for me. And like I said, it's going to be important to be intentional. You really don't want to go through and try to just scroll through different pages because there's over 50 some odd thousand opportunities, and it's almost like we can be over inundated with information. So that can ultimately lead to analysis paralysis. So when you have too many options, it's like you have no options. So being able to limit our field of view allows us to be a ton more successful. So we're going to take a look at some of these websites. First, I want to start off with sam.gov, and I'm going to list out to you whether something is free to use, whether something you have to sign up for, so on and so forth. So sam.gov is a free to use platform. This is the primary contracting vehicle for the United States federal government. All right. Okay, so this is sam.gov. You can manage your government business profile from here, but ultimately we want to focus on our contract opportunities. So again, if you have any questions, I'm not able to see the chat right now. So if anybody wants to stop and ask some questions, I'll get to a point where I just kind of take a pause for us to process the information. So before I get into it, any questions so far? All right, sounds like we're good. So first thing I want to do is when I get to sam.gov, I want to go to the option that says contract opportunities. So once I select contract opportunities, it takes me to contract opportunities. You know, it's very straightforward, so don't be afraid to dive right into it, right? You can't do anything wrong at this point. You know, you're not signing your life away to the government. You know, you don't have any, binding contracts that you're signing. So just dive into it, be free and open with what you do. Be fearless, because old saying, scared money don't make money. So don't be scared in this process. Put your feet down and start running. So what I want you to do now is I want someone to give me a keyword or give me something that you want me to search so we can get this process started.
Hospital supplies.
Hospital supplies. So we'll do, let's say medical supplies. Okay, so when I search this particular keyword, we can see a myriad of information populates. So what I like to do before I do anything else, I like to be able to tailor my results, right? I like to be able to filter, because if I'm just searching now, it's possible that I could be getting opportunities that have already been awarded, opportunities that are due to close soon, so on and so forth. So what I want to do now is kind of go through and show you guys different methods that allows me to be more successful when I'm searching for contracts. It's me being very intentional. Again, I'm going to keep saying that word, being very intentional, to ultimately reduce the number of results that I have. If you can see here, it shows me that I have about 81 total results. So, in the grand scheme of government contracts, that's not a lot, but that's still too many that I want to go through, right? I want to make sure that I find a good opportunity that I have a great chance to be successful in submitting a response for. Even though this first one, I think that would be a great opportunity for us to look at. Ultimately, this probably is the one that we're going to look at, the medical supplies BPA. And then we'll go into why I think this is a good opportunity to look at. So now we're going to get into a little bit of more explanation, a little bit more information that was present on our slides before. So when we're going through, on the left-hand side, we have the ability to filter. So I know someone mentioned that they want to work with a particular agency. So you have the ability to go in and find, the federal organization. So let's see if I can find corrections. I can't spell, so don't blame me for that one. But you can go in here and find your different agencies. If you're looking to work for a particular one, you do have that option to search based on that. Dates. Dates is another important one because we ultimately want to be able to find opportunities that we can respond to. Every contract opportunity has a response date. So up to that response date, we can send in our contract, but anything after that, that opportunity is closed and is no longer available for responses. So we want to make sure that we pick a viable window for us to operate in. And I think that's going to be important, during the sourcing process, because you might find a great opportunity if today's the 28th and tomorrow's the 1st. An opportunity may be due on the 1st of March at, let's say, 10 a.m. It may be exactly what you want. It may be perfectly fitting for your business, but a day to pull together a contract, that's really not enough time. So you want to make sure you give yourself ample time to respond, ample time to get pricing, ample time to pull together all of your resources and information to prove to the government that, hey, I'm a confident pick as a contractor, and you'd be doing yourself a favor if you chose me to execute this opportunity. So give yourself enough time. If you write anything down with sourcing government contracts, write down, give yourself enough time to work on that contract. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change my response date. It gives me different options. So typically what I choose is I want to work on opportunities that are due within the next year. And you can see that it updated. I'm going to leave my update time to anytime, but my response date, offers due, is due for opportunities within the next year. So we can see that my opportunities have changed from 81 to 10. So 10 is a much easier number to digest than trying to go through 81 complex document or 81 complex opportunities who have multiple informative documents presented in them. Okay, clean this up a little bit. Next, we have date, or no, not dates, notice type. So our notice type is going to be the type of opportunity it is. So there are two primary ones that we want to focus on. We want to focus on, all right, so there are more than two, but there are two main categories, should I say. So that's going to be solicitation and pre-solicitation. So a solicitation is a live open opportunity that can be responded to. So, we want to pay attention to the notice type. If we look to the right-hand side here, we can see the notice type. We have some for original, combined, synopsis, and solicitation. And then we have a notice type for updated pre-solicitation. So if it's an opportunity that is accepting quotes or proposals, it's going to be under that pre-solicitation, or excuse me, it's going to be under that solicitation category. So I want to go ahead and select all of the important ones, and I want you all to write this down. So the important ones are going to be pre-solicitation, solicitation, combined synopsis and solicitation, sources sought. Okay, and those are all the ones that are important that are listed on SAM.gov. So we've talked a little bit about solicitation. Next, I want to kind of transition into pre-solicitation. So a pre-solicitation is a period in which the government is letting contractors know, hey, we have the intention of potentially issuing this contract and it becoming a solicitation. So, here's a heads up. Or it could be a situation as the government is intending to gain information about contractors who could potentially execute that opportunity. So I look at it as a pre-solicitation is an opportunity that's basically on deck to become a solicitation. So what you can see these opportunities as are, you can see them listed as RFIs, which is a request for information. You see them as sources sought, which is an option that we have here. And you see them listed as pre-solicitations. So they're going to be asking you for different pieces of information in your response. Typically, the way that you'll be responding to a pre-solicitation, sources sought, or an RFI, you're going to be responding with your capability statement. They're not looking for any pricing when you're submitting a response to a pre-solicitation. So, once you get your capability statement generated, you'll be able to tailor it toward the pre-solicitation that you're responding to, and then the process will kind of be like clockwork. So I definitely recommend to responding to as many pre-solicitations as possible because it's very probable, that you submitting a response to a pre-solicitation can allow them to shape that contract around your business. If you're the only one to, submit that pre-solicitation, and you're a economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business, that's an awesome set aside to have. And you're issuing that response. They can see that. They can see how capable you are as a contractor through the strength of your capability statement. And boom, they can ultimately, when the opportunity becomes a solicitation, it's possible that they could make the set aside for that opportunity align with the set aside for your company, because they have, as we mentioned this morning, they have a quota to meet. They need to have these set asides when government contracts, or they need to award those contract dollars to those specific socioeconomic status groups. Combined synopsis and solicitation, that is going to be an open and active opportunity that you can pursue as well. So it's in the same vein as solicitation. And then source assault, like I mentioned a little while ago, is related to pre-solicitation. So pre-solicitation and source assault are two opportunities where they are not accepting pricing for. And then solicitation and combined synopsis and solicitation, those are going to be our RFQs, requests for quotes, and requests for proposals, which will need to contain pricing, and you can be awarded a contract based on your response for that. All right. So any questions about any notice types?
Could you explain solicitation, please?
Yes. Yeah, so solicitation is a live, active opportunity that can be responded to, and you, based on the response, you can receive an award, again, based on your response. So these are the opportunities that we pursue that we can win contracts on, or a contract will be issued when awarded.
Thank
you. You're welcome. Any other questions? And EJ, if there's any questions in the chat, let me know, because I can't see it right now.
We're good right now. I got you though.
Awesome. All right, so we're gonna keep moving, keep on keeping on. So we've gone over notice type, and then we have product or service information. So this is gonna be, where we can basically search via NAICS codes or product codes. Primarily, I'm sourcing via NAICS codes because those are going to be the codes that you all will have readily on hand. So, once you establish the NAICS codes for your company, if you want to go in and search based on that, then you have the ability to. Right now, we're going to leave that pretty much open-ended because we are already searching based on medical supplies. So I just want to show that you do have the ability to search via NAICS codes. Set-asides, also a great tool to use. All right, so let's see, we're gonna do set-asides for total small business. Then we're going to do set-asides for hub zone. Then we're gonna do set-asides for women-owned small business. Economically disadvantaged women-owned small business. Okay, so I have the ability to go in and narrow that option down a little bit. So all the opportunities, so it's one opportunity. So we have fiscal year 2022 Phoenix bariatric wheelchair opportunity that's due on March 7th, 2022 at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you can see how through being intentional with issuing my set-asides, I have tremendously cut down the number of opportunities that I feel like would be a great fit for me as a company. Place of performance. If there's a particular state that you want to operate in or work in, then you can search via zip code as well as state or province. Okay, so now that we've narrowed all of those results down, we're going to go ahead and move on to take a look at a couple of opportunities. So at a glance, I see I have one result here. So we can see its title is Fiscal Year FY 2022 Phoenix Bariatric Wheelchair. It gives me the notice ID. So our notice ID is going to be our identifier for the contract. So you'll see the term notice ID as well as solicitation number used interchangeably. So the notice ID or solicitation number is basically going to be the name of that contract. So with government contracting, you have the ability to reach out to the contracting officer, who is the government point of contact, about any questions or concerns that you might have about a particular contract, even if you haven't been awarded that opportunity. So, you know, when we do have questions, because we will have questions about contracts, you always want to reference the notice ID or solicitation number when you are speaking with that government point of contact, because they deal with hundreds of contracts every day. They deal with hundreds of contractors every day. So, you know, just saying, hey, you know, I have a question about the Fiscal Year Phoenix Bariatric Wheelchair opportunity, they're not going to know what you're talking about. So, you know, every time I've spoken with a contracting officer, I've listed off the notice ID and the solicitation number, and they immediately know which opportunity I'm talking about. So they have a great association with that. Next, we can see a little bit of a brief detail about it. It gives us a little bit of a blurb. It doesn't really give us too much insight, but that's why we click into the opportunity. So it says Introduction to Veterans Health Administration Program Contracting Activity. Central anticipates soliciting quotations and subsequently so on and so forth. We can see that the department agency for this opportunity is the Department of Veterans Affairs. The sub-tier is Veterans Affairs, Department of Veterans Affairs, I'm assuming. And then we have the office, the PCAC Health Information. So it gives us who's issuing the contract all the way down to the office. And then if we look on the right-hand side, we can see the current response date for the opportunity being due March 7, 2022 at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's about a week. I think it's going to be important for you all to identify, you know, what your turnaround timetable is going to be as you get more familiar with the process. Give yourself, you know, leeway. This is about a week. So, you know, I honestly, if this is something that I did, being that we operated in medical supplies, I'll be confident in my ability to get a response pulled together on March 7th. So this would be a green light for me to move forward with, because I know I have about, if I found this opportunity this morning, I have about 7 or 8 days. Next, we can see the notice type for this opportunity is an updated pre-solicitation. So going into it, I know that I'm not even going to be tasked with having to provide any pricing information for the opportunity. So, you know, I know 100% now that I'll be able to respond effectively to this opportunity, just based on the fact that, you know, one, I have about 7 days to respond with my capability statement. So next we have updated dates as well as published dates. So that's when the opportunity was issued. I think this is also something important to pay attention to. So if you see the opportunity was published or posted on the 25th of February, you can see that it is due on the 7th. Then you can see you typically, you know, you'll have maybe a 1 to 2 week time between when an opportunity is posted to when an opportunity is submitted. The response date is possible to change. That's something that you also want to take note of. Contracts can be extended. Contracts can be amended. When a contract is amended, they have the ability to push the due date back if any additional information is going to be provided, or they have the ability to not push the due date back. So the due date is not necessarily set in stone, but we always want to operate as if it is. So, you know, if I see it today, then I want to start working on it today, just so I can make sure that I ultimately get everything together, because the goal is to win. So I want to do everything in my own power to control, you know, my ability to submit as many government contracts as possible so I can win as many government contracts as possible. So now I'm going to go into it. And this is what it looks like. So we can see our crest for the Department of Veterans Affairs. Again, we can see notice IDs as well as agencies, sub-tiers, as well as offices, things that we've touched on. Next, we have a general information area that gives us the opportunity type, pre-solicitation. It lets us know the time zone that they're operating in. So something we also want to pay attention to, because they're going to be issued for all the time zones across the United States and even outside the continental United States. So, you know, you could potentially be working on an opportunity that's due in Germany, or an opportunity that's due somewhere else in Europe. So always pay attention to those time zones. So we've gone over the updated published dates, original published dates, response dates, and so on and so forth. So for this opportunity, we can see that this classification is a total small business set aside. So for all my small businesses out there, this is set aside for you. We have our product service code as well as NAICS codes. So our NAICS code for this one is 339113, surgical appliance and supplies manufacturing. So if you are in the business of supplying hospitals, then this will definitely be a NAICS code for you, as well as product code. I do know the product service code for hospital furniture and equipment, utensils and supplies, 6530. 6530 is a little bit more direct and finite to what they're looking to supply, but 65, if you use product code 65, then that'll take you to basically all medical supplies and DME products. So our place of performance here is going to be Phoenix VA Healthcare Center in Phoenix, Arizona. And then we have our description. So I'm not going to go through all of this out of respect for all of our times. But description is going to give us a brief overview of, you know, what we're expected to do, how we can expect it to be performing on the opportunity. Being that this one is a pre-solicitation, it's going to provide us with, you know, what as a contractor we need to do to effectively respond to this opportunity. So I'll read a little bit of an excerpt. The applicable NAICS code is 339113 with a size standard of 1,250 employees. So every opportunity not only has a numerical NAICS code, but they also have a NAICS code size standard. So for you to be a viable option for this opportunity, it says that the size standard is going to be 1,250. So you must have less than 1,250 employees. The size standard can also be listed in terms of a revenue, right? So it could say the small business, in order to constitute for, you know, the set aside, one, you have to have less than 1,250 employees. And it also may say, you know, you have to make less than, let's say, 16 million. So being that we're all, you know, small, relatively new businesses, then, you know, for the most part, you know, 9 times out of 10, you know, you're going to meet that employee size standard, as well as the revenue size standard. So always something, you know, to put into effect, because you won't be a small business forever. All right, the solicitation will be issued on or about February 25th, 2022 for approximately 10 calendar days. So it's letting us know when they expect it, or expect to issue the actual solicitation for this opportunity. It's saying we basically have 10 calendar days to respond. It says offers will be required to submit their quotes electronically via email This requirement is for medical facilities. Due to patient safety concerns, VA requires verification that all medical supplies, equipment are purchased from authorized sources. So on and so forth. All right, so next, something also, another caveat to pay attention to, a little bit further down, we see that it says vendors who are unable to supply proof of authorized dealer or distributorship will not be considered for award. This just kind of goes back to those federal acquisition regulations that we talked about earlier. You know, there are always things in place, you know, that the government expects from their contractor. So, you know, if you were a supplier of medical goods, but you were not an authorized dealer, then you will not be awarded this contract opportunity. Typically, when they're looking for authorized dealers or distributors, they want some type of seal of approval from the manufacturer to say, hey, you know, company XYZ is authorized to actually distribute my products. So that's something I always recommend you guys do if you're looking to get into the product space. Connect with as many vendors as possible. You know, get on, you know, all the lists that you can to become an authorized dealer, because one, it makes your life a lot easier, and two, you don't have to deal with any type of liquid when you finally do win a government contract, because they will offer you lines of credit. Example I love to use with this is, you know, even before we started using ADP, we were able to get a $300,000 line of credit with Dell to be able to supply their laptop to the federal government. So, you know, that's a sweet deal, you know, being able to operate on multiple contracts without having to put up any liquid, because we're an authorized dealer that can ship and sell the products to the government as we need. So that's something I highly recommend. And a lot of these companies, you know, that you could procure products from, major companies, should I say, you know, it's not always a necessity that you have some type of proof of being an authorized dealer. You know, a lot of companies don't require that, but in the event that they do, you want to make sure that's taken care of. What I was going to say is, a lot of these larger companies, they have programs which you can sign up for to be a distributor of their products solely to the federal government, right? So it's a lot easier to work with different subcontractors who are familiar with the government space, because then if a company is familiar with the government space, they're familiar with the pay terms. You know, you don't have to do any convincing to try to get them to give you credit, try to get them to give you net terms, or whatever the case may be. You know, we're all on the same page. It's all open and out there. So it makes the business relationship a lot smoother. Let's see, what else do we have? Questions of a technical nature will not be answered as a part of this notice. However, all general questions may be submitted in writing to the issuing office via Richard Webb 3@va.gov and Roberto de Jesus. Those are going to be our contracting officer and our contracting officer representative. So those are our government points of contact. So you can see how everything is starting to come together. You know, we're getting a little bit of information about what they're looking for in a contractor, as well as who our points of contact are. So, you know, if anything isn't really plain to me, then I know that I can reach out to both of these individuals to clear any type of confusion up that I have. And next one, I'm sorry,
add a quick tip. I just wanted to let the squad know that you want to make note of abbreviations. So CO is contracting officer and COR is contracting officer representative. You'll see that as you're reading through some of the solicitations.
Thank you for that, EJ. Sometimes I forget about abbreviations myself. All right, so one of the more important pieces is going to be our documents, our attachments and links. So a lot of you are probably thinking right now, okay, you know, it's giving me a description, but I still have questions. Most of the time, if you go solely off of the description of an opportunity, you're not going to have a complete, full understanding of that opportunity. So it's important for us to make sure that we thoroughly go through all the attachments and links, because that's going to give us a bit of a clear understanding. And then if that doesn't give us a clear understanding, then you know, we pick up the hotline and then we call Richard and Roberto. So I'm not sure what this document is going to be. I'm hoping it's going to be a standard form 1449, so you guys can see what that looks like. Okay, so being that this is a pre-solicitation notice, it's going to again give us general information, gives us more plainly our points of contact. It's a lot more easier to digest than the description. Pre-solicitation notice. All right, so this should give us a little bit more information. All items must be quoted in accordance with attached salient characteristics in the document. All right, so this really doesn't give me any information. If I know today is the 25th and I expected the opportunity to actually become a solicitation today, and we saw that it was not present, I would immediately reach out to Richard and Robert on the grounds that, hey, I see that in the notice that you said the opportunity was supposed to be issued on the 20th. Well, today's the 28th. But I see that the opportunity was supposed to be issued on the 25th, as today is currently the 28th and no solicitation has been issued. I would like to know if that has changed, or I would like to ask specifically what type of opportunities need to be supplied, or how many of these wheelchairs need to be supplied, just so I can have a clear understanding to move, so I can move forward with the opportunity as I'm poised to successfully complete this opportunity. That's kind of the nature of, you know, what our conversation would be over the phone or via email. Really doesn't make a difference how you reach out to them, just as long as you do it if you have any questions. All right. Scroll down a little bit more. We can see that we have the address for the contracting office, as well as our primary point of contact with their email address and phone number. So that's pretty much it for, you know, what it looks like to source an opportunity, as well as, you know, kind of what the basics are when you're going through an opportunity. So are there any questions about anything concerning the process of, it can be anything about the acquisition process, it can be anything about sourcing opportunities, reaching out to government points of contact. Doesn't even have to be pertaining to that. If you have a question, let me know. Or if y'all want another example, let me know.
Yeah, can we go over an actual solicitation?
Yep, we sure can. So we'll go for the first one that I saw, the BPA. I think that's a great example. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the medical supplies BPA. Acronyms are super important in the government space because they rarely do spell things out. So you can see this medical supplies BPA. A BPA constitutes a blanket purchase agreement. So this would definitely be one that I pursue because a blanket purchase agreement means that it's basically an indefinite, it's an IDIQ, an indefinite quantity over an extended period of time. So, you know, the possibility of what they purchase is almost endless. So I know it's going to be over a long period of time. And I know if I'm a medical supply supplier, then I know I'm locked in with a good deal for the United States government. And typically with BPAs, they'll have a floor as well as a ceiling, right? So for this BPA, we'll see what those are. And then again, we can see this is for the Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Investigation, and then we have the office here. Opportunity is due on March 14th, 2022 at 2 p.m. EDT. So this one is even better than the last one in terms of response date. You know, I know I have about 2 weeks now to ultimately pull everything together. Okay, so I'm not going to go over things that we already went over, but we can see the notice ID. We can see the contract opportunity type for this one is combined synopsis as well as solicitation. Our NACE code here are going to be medical, dental, hospital equipment, supplies, merchant wholesalers. So 423-450. So we see that the Federal Bureau of Investigation procurement section is issuing this request for quotation, RFQ, to solicit authorized resellers of medical supplies for the purpose of establishing a single award, firm fixed price, blanket purchase agreement to acquire medical supplies for the Medical Operations and Readiness Unit. Contractors interested in competing for this effort may participate by submitting quotes in accordance with the procedures set forth in the attached RFQ document. So, EJ, which one should I go with first? Statement of work or the RFQ?
Let's do statement of work first, and then we can look at the SF 14.
Okay, so statement of work is going to be our rubric for how we need to complete this opportunity. Is going to lay out what we need to do for this opportunity. So you're going to oftentimes hear me refer to the statement of work as a prompt, because it's our job as the contractor to respond to the prompt or the statement of work in our proposal in a manner in which, you know, we inspire confidence in the government so that they basically select us. So when we're responding to a prompt, our technical response is going to be us going through and reaffirming that not only do we understand the contract opportunity, but this is how we expect to get it done. So, you know, this is basically your guideline that you want to follow on how to or what to, should I say, respond to for a federal contract that you actually have to draft that proposal. So this they can be a little bit lengthy and wordy, but this one's only 4 pages. So, you know, I will take 4 pages over 300 pages any day. So let's see if we can get a little bit of these specifics. There's a general list that is in a constant state of flux based on needs and availability. The FBI deserves the right to add or delete supplies that fall within the scope of this BPA as required to maintain effective medical operations. Right. So we already know that they're looking to supply these, looking for us to supply these medical devices and equipment. Technical requirements: contractor shall provide various medical supplies to the FBI as specified by the contracting officer representative, COR. That includes a vast and wide variety of products such as pharmaceuticals, vaccines, diabetic supplies, diagnostic accessories, i.e. thermometers, disposable scrubs and sheets, hygienic and sterilization products. The unit's largest category of essential medical supplies includes over-the-counter medications, prescription medications, and emergency medications for deployment and director protective detail trips. So this would be super important for me because this would basically eliminate me. It would allow me to eliminate this opportunity as soon as I read that sentence. I know when I was operating in the medical supply space, I was not supplying pharmaceuticals and vaccines. So I know that is why it's not impossible. I would still have to go through the process of, you know, depending on the nature of the vaccines or the pharmaceuticals that they need, you know, there may be other hoops that I would have to jump through. Given a 2-week time frame, would I be able to jump through those hoops? That's to be determined. But typically, the statement of work allows me to either confirm that this is a good opportunity or completely eliminate it from the opportunities that I'm pursuing. In my case, I would eliminate this opportunity. I don't know, what everyone else's capabilities are, but that might be right up your alley. So next, let's say that didn't eliminate me from pursuing this opportunity. I'm going to go continue into the overall objectives. So the contractor must have an established online ordering system with gatekeeper ability. Orders placed must receive approval by FBI, medical doctor, or COR to ensure supply orders are processed in an efficient and timely manner. It wouldn't be much of a hassle for me to set up an online shop if I didn't already have one. So that seems like an easy fix to me if that was not in place. It says products must be available sold in single quantities as opposed to being sold by the case as much as possible. Vendor must provide customer service to include same-day follow-up to all requests by phone or email. Vendor must have the capability to provide customizable reporting sorted by location, product, and/or time frame for purchasers that specifies which items have been sent to which locations. Something else that would ultimately disqualify me from moving on with this opportunity. I wouldn't want to sell single quantity anything. If I'm selling a single quantity syringe that's 89 cents, it would cost me more to actually send the invoice than I would be making on that. So, I want to, if it's product based, I want to be able to, send over bulk of whatever I'm dealing with, and that's something that you all should take into account. If you do not have the product yourself, you want to be dealing with bulk sale. The reason I say that is if you're using a subcontractor or you're using a vendor, then if you're buying in bulk, just like you can go to Costco or Sam's Club, whichever one, the way that they sell that is cheaper than buying individually at, let's say a Kroger or a Publix. Your supplier is going to give you a generous discount based on the number of goods that you're purchasing. So if I have to buy 9,000 cases of something to get a $5,000 discount, that would make more sense to me. And being that for the most part, the government is buying in bulk. They are not buying small numbers of anything. This one is a little bit different because it's basically looking like they want you to serve as their quote unquote product warehouse, their product back office. Granted, they probably will never order a single item because that wouldn't make any sense, but if they needed to, then they could. All right. So yeah, if this is one that we're going to pursue, we would go through this whole document, but again, we still have a lot to cover. We're still on the same site. So I definitely recommend you guys kind of following my lead. When you have some free time, going to sam.gov, searching those keywords, doing a little bit of research on NAICS codes, seeing which area you want to kind of operate in, just so you can kind of stay ahead of the curve. And I think what's cool about this group is I know we're going to have some mentoring sessions, some consulting sessions. So, we'll be able to kind of get into it on a more micro level, being able to have a company, go through and walk through and see a potential opportunity that you would pursue as a company and, what you would do to go ahead and respond to that opportunity. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. All right. And then next we have our RFQ. I'm pretty sure this is going to be our standard form 1449. I could be wrong, but if it is the standard form SF 1449, I'll explain a little bit about what that is. Nope, it's not an SF 1449. So I'll let you know what that SF 1449, you can write this down. So the SF 1449, that is going to be your government contract. So get used to seeing those because you will be signing a lot of those because that's going to be the contract that's issued to you when you are awarded the contract. Sometimes you are required to submit that standard form 1449 prior to winning the contract. That may be part of your submission package, along with your proposal or any other supporting documents. So standard form 1449 is the actual name of the government contract itself. All right, so I think this kind of goes into purpose, type of contract. Some information that I want to show is the total amount of all orders placed against the agreement shall not exceed $892,000. Or yeah, $892,000. So this is, for what it is, this is a small, if we're being honest. So, based on the nature of what they've asked me to do in this previous document, would lead me to go on to say, okay, I know I'm going to be supplying pharmaceuticals, which might take a little bit for me to get a hold of, or for me to get cleared to actually sell to the government. So I would move on from that based on that. Then I see the value, $892,000. If this is a one-time opportunity for medical supplies, yeah, most likely I would take it. But then it's for the life of this contract. Then it says no minimum order or dollar value is guaranteed. So they already told me that, hey, you might have to sell single syringes and single scrub socks. I'm not trying to do that, especially knowing that the ceiling for this opportunity is $892,000. Then scrolling down a little bit more, this is a 4-year contract. So over 4 years, I'm breaking up $892,000. And they're giving me no real breakdown. They're giving me no real minimum guaranteed order. So for this opportunity, for year 1, October 1 through September 30th, 2023, they may order 5 things. Now that's not possible, but it's also not possible. So I want to, as a contractor, I always want to put my business first, the health of my business first. So I'm not going to put myself into a bad deal just to say I want a contract. We're in the business of a lot of things, but we are not in the business of losing money, especially to the federal government. All right, they take enough of our money in taxes. They're not going to have us actually losing money on these government contracts. So seeing the years or the length and scale of this contract, coupled with the value of the contract, I would pass on this. And kind of like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to give you my thought process. I want you all to formulate your own opinion, right? But I think it's important for me to speak my truths, just so you can see why this wouldn't be a good contract for me, right? If pharmaceuticals and all the other things that they mentioned was my lane, and I could do that relatively easily. I wouldn't have to put any new resources toward this opportunity. Go ahead. But for my position, having to most likely subcontract it out, the value does not justify the work that's associated with it. And that's something that you should always consider. Does the value or does the potential value of this contract justify the work that I have to do? If I'm doing, $5 million worth of work for a $892,000 contract, or let me phrase it this way, if I'm doing, the work that I'll be doing for a $5 million contract for, this potentially $892,000 contract, which is over the course of 5 years, then I'm probably going to spend and take my efforts to that $5 million contract as opposed to this one. Okay. Something else I want to point out is in the supplies and services, we see it says no gray market product shall be accepted. All products shall be intended for sale in the USA. So this is a federal acquisition regulation, a FAR. No gray market products means all the products have to be new. And if we move outside the medical space, which is obvious, all products have to be new. And if they ever say that, you know, there are no gray area market products, that means all products have to be new. Products can't be refurbished. They can't be lightly used. They have to be new, sealed, in-box products. You know, we see this a lot with iPhones, for example. The government purchases a ton of iPhones, and they're always new products only. You can get a great deal on refurbished, unlocked iPhones, but the government is not looking to buy them. New products only. Another thing that we want to touch on is the Buy American Act, which is also a federal acquisition regulations. If an opportunity ever denotes that they are operating under the Buy American Act, all products have to be originate from the United States. There are different loopholes, and there are different countries throughout the world that follow that you can source products from that follow the Buy American Act. But typically, the Buy American Act is referring to locally sourced products. I was told by a contracting officer once that even if something may have originated in China, if it's put together in the United States, if it's assembled in the United States, if some type of modification was made to it in the United States, then it constitutes for the Buy American Act. Say, for example, if I have a bag, if I get duffel bags and I get them from China, for them to qualify for the Buy American Act, I can get them embroidered, or I can place, you know, whatever label I need to place, and they will then constitute and be passable for the Buy American Act. So definitely, why it's important to research these federal acquisition regulations, and we'll definitely lean into more of the more important ones. One of the ones that you need to abide by. Shipping and delivery, it's always important. But again, everything in the documents are important. I just want to make that clear. But for what we're doing, being that we're not actually pursuing this, you know, once we get to that one-on-one level or a group level, actually pursuing opportunities, then, you know, we'll kind of get further into the breakdown. But I want to move forward. So any questions about anything that I just discussed, from federal acquisition regulations, you know, how do I qualify an opportunity, if it's good or not? Any questions about anything? Is there anything that I haven't talked about in the acquisition phase that you want me to cover? Anything that's still unclear? All right, sounds like we're good. EJ, you got anything you want to add that I potentially missed about the acquisition phase, or, you know, some of your own experiences in the acquisition phase?
Yeah, I think you might have touched on it earlier. While you're going through the acquisition phase, guys, you want to be like water, right? You want to be like water. And not only that, you also want to make sure that you're reading thoroughly through these solicitations, so that you don't miss any pertinent information, so that your response can be fully vetted. Because as the contracting officers and their team are looking at the responses, they're making sure that you hit everything that they requested in the solicitation. So if anything has been omitted, then there goes your chance right out the window. It doesn't matter if you have the lowest price, because you didn't follow the guidelines set forth in the solicitation. It can hurt you. So I like to make note of that so that we can kind of make sure that we're running a tight ship when we're going through the acquisition phase.
Awesome. Thank you for that input, EJ. There is one more thing that I want to touch on. This is connected with acquisition. So I want to make sure that we're able to, so this might be more important than anything I've talked about so far in regards to acquisition, because that's pretty standard. I can go on the internet, I can go to this website, I can search these words, and I can find these contracts. So this is one where we actually have to hit the pavement a little bit. So one of the cool things about the SBA, they are here to assist small businesses, as their name implies. They're a small business administration, but the small business has different liaisons within government agencies across the entirety of the continent of the United States, and maybe even Puerto Rico. So the objective of these small business liaisons in these major agencies is to point small businesses in the direction that they need to go to win government contracts. So you can see here that the areas are broken up into multiple regions. So area 1, 2, 3, all the way through 6. So what you need to do is identify the areas that you want to work in. So I'm in the Southeast, so I like to primarily operate and build a relationship with these liaisons in the Southeast. So I'm going to go with area 3. And so if I'm to click on area 3, then it provides me with a directory of contacts. So I can see here that Mr. Gary W. Hurd, PhD, he's a CLC coordinator, commercial marketing representative in the U.S. Small Business Administration, Office of Government Contracting, area 3. So it gives me his office address, cell, fax, as well as email. And then this is for Alabama, then I have Mr. Douglas Gerard, and then it lets me know the activities that they cover. So I know someone in here is doing trucking and transportation, wants to do trucking and transportation. Marshall's Flight Center, Alabama. I can see that these are some of the activities or agencies that that they work with. Anniston Army Depot. So if I know that I want to transport munitions, then I'm going to be reaching out to Douglas and Gary, because I'm going to reach out to them, do a formal introduction. And typically throughout this process, when you're reaching out to these individuals, they're in full expectation to speak to you. So, it's never like you have to convince them to talk to you. It's never like you're a burden to them. This is their job. Their job is to help you win a government contractor, get you a government contract, or point you in the direction of somebody who can get you a government contract. So one thing we want when we do these introductions, we want to make sure that we have our capability statement, excuse me, our capability statements formulated. So then it's almost like a point and shoot. If you want to shoot out a mass email to everybody that you want to work with, doing your little introduction, attached with your capability statement, and then do a follow-up call, you have the ability to do that. So I'm gonna share this with you guys. I'm gonna put it in the chat. Definitely a great resource to have. Let me see if I can find. Okay. All right, awesome. So again, this is something that a lot of new government contractors don't know exists, right? You have a whole agency backing your success. It's kind of along the lines of the PTAC, right? These are individuals whose objective it is to, push small business through the line of success. So yeah, like I said, areas that you want to focus on, we can see area 3, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee. So what I recommend doing, if you're in your state and you want to work with a particular agency, or what I would recommend doing is, again, speaking of trucking, a lot of Army depots, there are going to be some areas that you definitely want to kind of tap in with. With trucking opportunities, you also have the ability to not only get loads, but you can also rent out. You can also rent out those your unit to the government. So I'm looking at the chat now. Chuck, I see, is it just those two for Area 3? Fort Bragg may mobilize people, equipment in the next month to support UCANE. So let's actually take a look at that. So So what I'm gonna do is what I always do. Move this out of the way. Command F. Let's see if Fort Bragg has someone in here for us. All right, so we got Ms. K. Matthews, Mission Installation Contracting Command, Fort Bragg, U.S. Special or Army Special Operations Command, Fort Bragg. Is there anyone else? So yeah, K. Matthews would be our contact for Fort Bragg. And then, you know, even if she wasn't able to, you know, basically she would let you know, if she couldn't help you, then she could let you know who's over whatever issue or whatever area that you're looking to. She can point you to that government contracting officer, or she can point you to where the contracts are. Potentially help you with forecasting. Possibilities are limitless, but this is who you want to get linked up with. All right. So any more questions about our SBA representative director? Let's see. Are you reaching out to the representative for the area which the opportunity is, or the area where I live? So I would say reaching out to the area that you want to operate out of. You know, so we operate across the entire continental United States. So if I wanted to find opportunities for contracting in California, then I would reach out to them, basically letting them know who I am and what I do and what my objectives are. So you don't have to reach out to the area that you're currently in. You don't have to reach out to solely your state, because in order realistically to be a successful government contractor, you have to be able to mobilize across the entirety of the United States. And like I mentioned before, being able to source subcontractors, that's going to be, you know, what takes you over the hill, takes you over the hump, because we're not going to always find the perfect opportunities in our backyard. So, you know, if you want to work on the West Coast, if you want to work on the East Coast, then you have the ability to do that. Another thing I want to mention, we talked a little bit about the micro purchase threshold. So, you know, we talked about unsolicited. You know, how do I get unsolicited contract opportunities? If the contract value is, you know, less than $10,000, then it doesn't have to be solicited. This is the pathway that we want to go to find unsolicited contract opportunities. So if, you know, I'm reaching out again, going back to trucking. Hey, I'm a trucker. I have a, you know, logistics company looking for contract opportunities. Well, if I have to take something from North Carolina, Fort Bragg, North Carolina, to Wilmington, North Carolina, for $10,000, I'm not sure what the going rate is. You know, that might be a terrible rate. But, you know, being that it's less than $10,000 or $10,000 or less, then, you know, they have grounds to give you that contract. So again, great resource to use. What I would recommend you all do is go through this list, identify some areas that you want to work in. So when it's time to put together that capability statement, you know, they can be the first on your list who we decide to reach out to. Any questions? Anything you want to add, EJ?
Nope, I'm good for now.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so we've done that. Ooh. All right. Next. Where's my there we go. So we've talked about opportunity types, RFPs, RFQs, RFIs. We've gone to sam.gov. We have not gone to Unison Marketplace. So I want to go take a look at Unison Marketplace momentarily. So Unison Marketplace, if you all are familiar with eBay, this is like the inverse of eBay. right? It's the opposite. So the objective of eBay is to be the highest bidder. The objective of Unison Marketplace is to be the lowest bidder. I like to call this federal contracting light. As Jalen mentioned in our meeting earlier, this is a great your first federal contract, just because of the ability to kind of have transparency when you're submitting an opportunity. You have the ability to continue to bid on the opportunity until the opportunity is closed. The system will notify you if you are leading or lagging. Leading, obviously, meaning you're at that current point winning the opportunity, and lagging mean at that point you are not the lowest bidder for the opportunity. So if you want to go in and lower your bid, I think that's a great, when you're currently in the lag situation or you're losing the bid, I think that's a great time to reassess where you are. Can you afford to take less on the opportunity? If you can't afford to take less on the opportunity and you're using a subcontractor, then I think that would be a great time to actually go back to your subcontractor. A line that I love to use, I like to see it as a shrewd negotiation. So a line that I actually use is, hey, we went to our purchasing department and this is currently out of our budget. What can we do to get into a range that's more acceptable for us? And typically, even before that, what I do is I come with some type of budget. And once we get into pricing, get to discussing pricing, we can go into how do you establish a budget? If I don't know what this is worth, how do I find that out? So we'll go into that. That's all part of the research process. So we'll take you to the different sites that you need to do to effectively research, and that's going to be fps.gov as well as usspending.gov. So that's going to allow us to set our budget. But to my other point, you can always go back to your subcontractor, and you don't want to ask them, you want to demand them, hey, I need you to go down on these prices. Because the way that I look at it is, it's a dog eat dog world almost. If you don't ask, you will never receive. So if what's standing between me and $150,000 payout is Greg that works at some t-shirt printing company, I'm gonna choose me 10 times out of 10. Right? If all I have to do is ask or get him to see the value in what I'm doing, I'm trying to put money in your pocket as well as I'm trying to get money in my own pockets. So let's work together and see what we can get done. So again, you'll primarily find product-based opportunities on here. I know someone earlier mentioned about wanting to do opportunities with the Department of Corrections. So we can see here we got Department of Justice, Bureau of Prisons, Terminal Island. So again, I know I mentioned foodstuffs earlier, so they're wanting the fiscal year 2022 national food menu. So if you want to kind of get into the food space, then you have the ability to do that here. I know someone mentioned plumbing and waste water and stuff like that. Those opportunities are here as well. We have rental and servicing of portable toilets and hand washing stations. The blue collar jobs are some of the best jobs. I will be 100% honest with you. I think we won a contract for about $52,000 for the rental and servicing of portable toilets and hand washing stations, and it maybe was no more than 4 days. So, and all we had to do, deliver. The company that we used to subcontract, they came and cleaned, and it was all inclusive in the price that was owed, or all inclusive in the price that we were quoted at. So, blue collar jobs are some of the best jobs, especially these hand washing stations, because our subcontractor is going to do the most work. And based on the length of these contracts, you'll be able to invoice on a weekly basis. It just depends on what the contract terms are. And then before I move it any further, I think it's also to kind of touch on payment terms again. be in a position to accept every form of payment, because a lot of opportunities, you have the ability to invoice, but they will also be paid out via purchase card. So purchase card is just a credit card the government will pay for whatever good or service at that current time. So in order to be able to receive those payments, you need to have some type of credit card processing system. If you do not have one, before you start bidding on government contracts, get one. That's going to be companies like Stripe, PayPal, I think Square Cash, or Square, should I say, not Square Cash, but Square. Those are three companies I can think of right off the top of my head. So companies in that same vein, if you don't want to work with any of those companies, do the research, find out which company best fits your business for where it is and where you want it to grow to. But make sure you're able to accept the money that the government's paying you. So yeah, this is a quick look at Unison Marketplace. I'm not going to get too deep into it because this is one that you have to have your government license to register and sign up for. So you're going to need your cage code to sign up for this. So once we get that, we'll make sure that all of you guys are set with registrations. This is a free platform to use as well. So once you get that, this is definitely going to be the one that you all should be trying to get your first win on, while simultaneously using it for SAM.gov or using SAM.gov with this particular platform. The way I recommend it is, depending on how much time you have to give to it, I always start my Mondays with sourcing on Unison. I'll go through, source all the opportunities that I feel like I have a great chance to be successful with. Once I do that, then I'll transition into SAM.gov, and then I'll pull all those together in a spreadsheet. And then once we do that, then I'll start moving on the opportunities that I want to proceed with, doing a little bit more research, seeing if the budget makes sense, seeing if what the government is potentially paying, if that makes sense for me to move forward with. So any questions about Unison Marketplace? Is there anything that you want to see in Unison Marketplace? Again, it's a very simple, straightforward system. That's why I call it government contracting light. You can really bolster up your contracting business on this platform. So 10 out of 10 would recommend. Anything you want to add on Unison, EJ?
It's where I won my first contract. I know that. I won the bread contract straight off Unison. 24 hours after I received my cage code. Results not typical, right? But Unison is my favorite website to utilize when bidding on contracts. It has so many advantages, and you know right away whether you're leading or lagging. And I think that's one of the major features that I love the most, because I can go back to my vendors and say, hey, I know I'm not going to win the contract at this price. So use that as a negotiation tool. So definitely check out Unison Marketplace, guys. The reverse bid auction is a sound way and a solid way to win a contract for sure.
Thank you, EJ. So we've looked at the two primary resources that we'll be using to source contracts. You do have the ability to go to SAM.gov now. So like I said before, play around with it. If you run into any issues, then we can address that in our next meeting. Because again, my objective is to make everything clear for you. I don't just want to throw the information at you and you not get it, because if you don't get it, then you can't utilize it. And I want everyone in here to be a successful government contractor. I want us to all be telling our stories about, yeah, I won this contract yesterday. I won this contract. I got 5 contracts on the table. I got so many contracts right now, I can't take them all. So those are the type of stories I want to hear. But in order to get to that point, we have to make sure that we understand every piece of this information. So A lot of that is going to be, some of you guys taking time outside of these meetings to go through that, play around with it. And I know you will, because I hope you're still excited. You see the possibilities. I think it was cool that, even though I didn't, particularly like that medical supply BPA, we got to see a number, right? A lot of times you don't get to see number on these contracts, but seeing that, hey, the government's paying $892 or $832, whatever the number was, $1,000 for medical supplies. And like I said, that's on the low end. That's on the low end. So just think of the levels that it reaches. So that's going to wrap it up for us in terms of acquisition. We do still have to cover usaspending.gov, as well as fpds.gov, and then we'll get into GovTribe as well. GovTribe is a paid platform, but you can get a 2-week free trial. So once we start discussing that, I recommend waiting until you have your cage code and you're ready to move on government contracts to sign up for your free trial. You need 2 weeks. Something I used to do is, because we ain't always had the ability to pay for it, something I used to do is I would keep creating emails, as many emails as I had, as many GovTribe accounts as I had. So if it's something that you want to keep trying out, as many email addresses as you have, that's as many accounts as you have. So definitely recommend it. It's a great system. All right. So next, tomorrow we'll be discussing our pricing, everything that's surrounding that. One of the most pivotal pieces, like I said, even though they're all important, if my numbers aren't good, then, I can't win a contract. What I see a lot of times is people price themselves out of bids. There'll be hundreds of thousands of dollars over what the price was awarded. That's why it's going to be important for us to research. I'm going to get into the process of, what it means to research, what it looks like to research, where do you go to research, what do the numbers mean, how do I create a budget with previous award data, so on and so forth. So I'm looking forward to talking about pricing. Money's always fun to talk about. Money always gets people excited. Money always helps paint the vision. It shows you what you can do. If somebody else is doing it, then why can't you? So with that being said, that's gonna wrap it up for us today. Is there anything that anyone wants to say before we close? Going once, going twice.
There you go.
Hey, I got a question.
So
is it your, I think I'm echoing.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, how about now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, sir. I can hear you.
Okay, so my question, is it your method to go, say, Monday and make yourself a spreadsheet of all the opportunities, and then Tuesday follow up on those with maybe narrowing down the 20 opportunities you identified into, I can actually pursue these 5, or what does a typical week look like for you going between SAM.gov and Unison?
Okay, so typical week for me is going to be Monday's all acquisition, right? I try not to do any type of actual, contracting work on Monday. I want to set out what I expect from my week. I want to game plan, but I'm never actively working on any contracts on Monday. It's strictly for acquisition. So once all that's compiled, Tuesday is going to be the day that I actually start working. So on Monday, I've already established an order of, what contracts I want to pursue. So I've gone through all the documents. I've read all the requirements. I know how I need to respond. I've started to do research. I've looked up previous incumbents for potential opportunities, so I know how much they were paid. I know how long their contract lasted. And once I have all that information, I typically write it down, and then it kind of allows me to see which opportunities hold or set precedent over the next. So once I do that, I then go into Tuesday, which then I begin working, right? So I may have 5 opportunities. I already have the hierarchy of which I need to pursue them. So, I go to the ones I need to pursue first on the basis of, whether they're closing sooner, whether I see them taking more time, whether I see that, this is a 100% shot. I know if I shoot, I'm gonna hit it. So, those are some of the criteria that I base it off of. And once I do all that, I'll start reaching out to my subcontractors. Typically, what you want to do is you want to build up a rapport with your subcontractors, so then your turnaround can be quick. I'm talking same day quick. That's something that you guys will kind of realize and run into, when you're starting out. It may be a little bit hard to get the response time that you want, but the way I say solving that is just being consistent. So, getting a response as soon as possible, because then in a perfect world, I want to be submitting something on Wednesday. I want to be submitting contracts on Wednesday, because once you get started, the process gets easier. So it's not like every time I don't have to, create a whole new proposal. When you create one proposal, that's your template. When you create one capability statement, that's your template. So all I have to do is go in and change the pricing, technical response, agencies that I'm working with, point of contact. Then I have to adjust my past performance. So those are the only things that I really have to change. So you want to make your past performance in line with, say for example, if I'm working on a trucking opportunity, I don't want all my past performance to be centered around catering, right? So then I'm going to list my trucking experience as opposed to my catering experience. So all information that we have really at our fingertips makes the process a whole lot easier. So once I just kind of plug and play, send it off. And then Wednesday, based on where I'm at in my submittal process, if I've submitted all my opportunities, then I use Wednesday to source more opportunities to carry me over into next week. And so then I'll repeat the process. And then that's pretty much it. I try to keep it as simple as possible.
And do you see duplicate opportunities on Unison and SAM.gov, or are they just different lists?
So this is an important distinction to make. Every opportunity that you can find on Unison, you can find on SAM.gov. But every opportunity that's on SAM.gov, you cannot find on Unison. So the way it works is SAM.gov is the #1 government contract issuance system, right? So it has every federal contract. Unison is a platform in itself that's going to be used to submit contracts. So even though you may source it on SAM.gov, you have to submit it on Unison. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So any more questions about anything? Hey, if we are good, we're gonna go ahead
I have
and
one question. I'm sorry. I wanted to know how long does it actually takes for the cage code to for us to receive our cage code?
let's see, what's that time frame, EJ? Was it 8 to about 21 days max?
Yeah, 2 to 3 weeks right now. But it could be longer or shorter depending on the amount of applications that they're currently processing.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, we want to make sure we get you guys rolling in that process so we can go ahead and I'm ready to get some opportunities submitted. if we're being completely honest. You know, it's I like doing trial by fire. I think that's some of the best ways that we learn. You know, it's one thing for me to sit here and walk you through the systems, but it's another for me to say, all right, we submit this opportunity today, let's get it. And working out all the kinks in real time. All right. So if we're good, then we're gonna wrap it up for tonight.
I got one question.
Go ahead.
So stop laughing, Cheyenne. So I always say I got one last question, but what can we do besides going in and playing with it and looking at the different websites to actually get started now?
Identifying your NAICS codes. One thing I want everybody to definitely do is I want you to list out your past performance for your business, even if it's not in the federal sector. I want you to be able to provide the work that you've done in your business. I want to be able for you to provide the work that you've done, even if you're working for someone else, right? Because that's going to all be important for us in building that capability statement. So identifying the industry you want to work in, as well as listing out the work that you've done, your experience. So if you have any clients, any big clients that you work for, being able to provide the time frame that you work with them. If you catered, if you're a caterer and you've done birthday parties, list the number of years that you've been a caterer, right? The frequency in which you have jobs, your specialty, expertise, whatever the case may be. So past performance and NAICS codes are going to be our big areas that we want to establish right now.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Because even though we don't have a cage code, we can definitely start working on pulling our capability statement together. And so once we get that out of the way, then that's less for us to worry about. Okay, any last questions? Any thoughts? All right, we're going once, going twice, and we out of here. All right, I want to thank y'all so much for listening to me talk. It may not have been exciting, but I promise you it gets more exciting the closer we get to actually actively working. So just hang in there. Keep being excited because I promise you, we'll get everything that you say you want. If you say you want it, then we're gonna work toward it.
Definitely.
I'll work on
Tomorrow
getting
at
the.
9.
Sorry, go ahead, Livette.
Oh, I was saying tomorrow at 9 a.m. we're gonna have another meeting like earlier today.
It's actually going to be 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time up until Friday. So the
Okay,
classes
thanks.
will. You're welcome. Also, if you missed the session earlier today, I will work on getting the recording so that I can send that out to everyone. Even if you were able to attend, sometimes it's best to just go back through it and maybe comb through and see if you missed anything. So if you got any more questions, feel free to hit me up. Otherwise, enjoy your evening. I appreciate y'all, and we will see you bright and early tomorrow.
Okay, have a good night, everybody.
Have a wonderful evening. We'll make sure to PowerPoints as well.
Yeah.